if you dramatically changed, you've got a long time and a lot of mistakes. You could come to me, you know this. You can come to me and say you got another woman pregnant. That'd be like, tell me more.
No, you're lying right now. It's
100%.
It's all cap.
100%.
Hold that. We got to reset. Beautiful people, welcome back to the final episode of season 1. I just realized that right now.
You did not. You knew this
No,
was
no, no.
You knew for damn sure.
No. I like as I sat down, I'm like, oh my god, this is it.
It says season 1 last show.
It doesn't. Anyways, I have my better half, my lovely wife, Shay, and two of the most favored power couple for sure, on I think both channels, all the above.
Oh, wow.
Shan, Boody, Mr. Jerry
Thank
Brady.
you.
Thanks.
Welcome to Who Can Relate as the duo. I've had you guys separate. And today, we're going to be talking about unconditional love.
Hey.
So,
Is that the reaction people get when they hear unconditional love?
Hey.
Hey.
That's a nice stuff.
Yeah. Maybe.
It's a beautiful thing.
So, I'm excited to get everyone's individual personal definitions, and if you believe in it or not. So, I'm going to read the definition of unconditional love via, this is just Google. So, it's known as affection without limitations or love without conditions. The term is sometimes associated with other terms such as true altruism or complete love. So, that's based on Google. We'll go ladies first. Honey, what is unconditional love to you?
I feel unconditional love is just loving somebody freely.
Okay.
Like I offer my love to you freely.
With no
With
terms.
no expectation.
Okay. Okay.
Beautiful
Shan?
definition.
Yeah,
There's
great.
a book by Robert Munch that's called I Love You Forever. And it's the song in the book is I'll love you forever. I'll like you always. As long as I don't remember the song anymore. I'll love you forever. I'll like you always. As long as I'm living, my baby, you'll be. That's unconditional love.
So what's your definition? That's it.
That's it. That's the song.
Okay. Jay?
I think unconditional love would be something that is love without conditions.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing that this person can do or say or any actions that they may have done or can do will ever separate me from this love.
Right.
This love.
See, but
So not any love. This particular way that we're feeling right now is locked in.
I'm going to go on the record right now that I don't believe in unconditional love. I'm just defining it.
No, but is that? But I just want to clarify. Are you saying, because you could say love can be defined a million ways, right?
Yeah.
So that's the scapegoat here.
Sure.
yeah.
I can say that like I'm in love with you right now. I'll love you forever. Doesn't mean I'm going to be in love with you forever.
Yeah.
Does unconditional love mean that I'm going to love you the way that I'm saying in this moment forever?
Yeah, I mean, unconditional. It's no conditions. It's no matter what you do is not going to change the way I feel for you.
And that's my definition as well. It's like no matter what, no conditions, no terms, I will give unconditional love to you despite anything thrown our way. Now, a little bit of foreshadowing as Jared answered. Do we believe in unconditional love for now in the romantic setting? We'll talk about kids and parents and all that later, but right now for romantic sake, let's go around. Do you believe in unconditional love romantically?
Yes, I do.
And why? Or do you want to go just yes?
Yeah,
or
we
no's?
can go around.
Okay, Shan.
Why not?
Okay. Jay?
I think it exists. I think there's a lot of people in unconditional love. Is it a personal preference for me? No, I expect it to be conditional on both ends.
So you're like, I will love you if.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, it's I don't believe in unconditional love for romantic relationships. I think there's definitely conditions, because as much as we defined, you know, again, based off of Google, what the unconditional part is. So if I cheat, is that okay?
See, my definition of unconditional love has nothing to do with me staying in a relationship. While there's love, then there's a relationship. So I don't combine the two.
So again, if I had an affair, would you love me less?
I mean, I wouldn't continue my relationship with you, but that doesn't,
You probably still love them.
That's
Love him.
separate from love. Like, I will never stop loving you. Like, I've allowed you into a place of my life that no matter what you do, I'm always going to care for you and have a piece of love for you.
Okay.
A piece of love.
Or any kind of love. Like, just.
But I guess going off to that thing of like saying, I'm going to love you this way forever. That's not what you're saying. You're saying, I will love you in some kind of way.
Right.
Yeah. So for me, it's like love is just like, it's like the umbrella, right? So I'm not putting a level on it. I feel like the most highest level of love is agape, right? And that is unconditional love. Like,
I would actually argue agape is the lowest level of love, the base love.
what is the highest for you?
Because I define agape as like a general, it's almost like a godlike love.
Okay.
Like God loves you no matter what you do, no matter
Which
where
is
you are.
unconditional.
Yes, but it's like a baseline love of like, I wouldn't wish death upon you and you're okay. Like how I love the trees and how I love the sky and how I love the birds. Like I love myself. There's like a baseline acceptance that you're imperfect, that you're human, and that you're worthy of being desired to some capacity. But I think that that's step one, and then you build on top of it. But it's interesting to think of it in the reverse.
But back to the God thing, because if you sin, technically you can't go to heaven. So does God love you? You're just in hell?
It's not that if you sin, you can't go to heaven. If you sin
unless you
and you don't
repent
ask for,
right. But let's say you don't.
Yeah.
Because God loves, I'm just rolling off of this, right? It's not a religious thing right now, but if I guess it is, but if, do you understand what I'm saying? So if God loves us all, but we sin and don't ask for forgiveness and we don't repent, can we go to heaven?
Well, it's kind of like what you just asked.
There's conditions, right?
I can break up with you, but I'll still love you.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Right.
you're going to hell, but God loves you in hell.
Right.
Bye.
Exactly. But you can't get to heaven based on the condition that what you did.
Yeah.
But wouldn't
just called
that
it a sin.
be like if
Would
you're,
heaven be the reward and not the love?
I think it'd be both.
that's what I was going to say. It's like, even though you will no longer reap the benefits of me loving you because I won't continue to have a relationship with you, that doesn't mean that I stop loving you.
So do you still have love? Do you still
Like,
love
even-
your exes?
Even to a certain degree, of course. Like, I still have love for them for sure.
No, it's getting spicy. I was making it.
I think I still have love for them for sure, where there was a piece of me that I am who I am because of every experience I've had, every person that's come into my life. So every person that's come into my life to that degree, absolutely, I have love for them.
But I guess that's not special then. If everybody gets unconditional love, then
It's JD's flowers.
Yeah, if I give everyone flowers, thank
Yeah.
you, Jay. Very much.
bringing
Well,
the
here's
episodes
thing,
all
I
together.
think it's really beautiful and to have that way. I personally, the way I live my life is like, I reserve the right to take my love back. To me, love is more of an action. It's more of an everyday choice. Love is displayed in the way that I show up for Shan every day. And so I don't think it's something like, if I've given Shan love, right? And let's say she does something that breaks the conditions that we have outlined for ourselves.
Yeah.
I reserve the right to be like, this love is sacred, and to me, I'm going to take this back.
But you're
what
taking
what are the
it-
conditions?
The conditions, I think, like, if you just completely stopped showing up for me and like started to be really selfish, to be really like out for yourself and not living in a partnership role with me, then I would probably be like, this is not a good fit or healthy for me. Or for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't think you're going to grow to your highest level if you stop showing up as a partner. And also too, I think that like love is an action. It's not something that is, I'm just giving it to you. It's a choice. It's every day. It's continuous.
So do you think, like, for me, I feel like you can have unconditional love with boundaries, because I do have boundaries that I've created for myself. So although I'm offering unconditional love to him, where to me, the definition of unconditional love is just I'm offering free love to him. There's nothing that he has to do to, like, it's not like I'm going to love you if you do A, B, and C. We're also forever evolving, forever growing. So when I offer unconditional love, it comes with support, it comes with compassion, it comes with respect. So I'm not always going to agree.
Are your boundaries not conditions?
Right. That's
What
what
do
I'm
you-
saying. Let's
Are your
try to-
boundaries
I
not
guess-
conditions?
I guess you could. I was thinking about this off of our phone call yesterday, but I do feel for me, I feel like the word conditions, like I'm going to love you if you continue doing this, sounds very controlling.
No,
Because
or
then-
I'm not going to love you if you continue to do this, which is boundaries.
I just feel like my boundaries I already know my boundaries, and I think I wouldn't have even chose you as a person if I didn't feel that you had that level. Now, if you like step outside of like where you're disrespecting me constantly or whatever the case is, of course I'm going to stand up for myself, because as much as I have unconditional love for you, I have unconditional love for myself.
I know, but there's conditions that you're skipping over, right?
As far as
it's a reference point, right?
Yeah.
It's a reference point. Like, I think us as men, when we hear conditions, we don't instantly go to control, because we're not, like, a lot of times when women give us conditions, it's usually just don't cheat, respect me, show up for me, you know, those type of things. And then if men show up with conditions, it's like cook, clean, you know, do these things. So I can understand how some people hear conditions and recoil. I can understand how, like, it could sound controlling. I think it just all goes down to that reference point.
Because I feel like when you're giving someone conditions, you're telling them what they can and can't do in order to reap the benefits of you loving them,
that's bad?
Right? I do think that's bad. Instead, I rather just tell you what my boundaries are, and if you cross them, then I have the right to continue, like, just myself.
See, they sound like the same thing to me.
Yeah. And it sounds like what you're saying, you have the right to take your love back.
Yeah.
So is that
not that I would take my love back, I would just no longer stay in that relationship, whether it's a friendship or a
based
partner.
on you're saying the boundaries that were crossed.
Correct.
And I guess I would just think it as the conditions that are no longer.
Yeah.
So
I guess the word conditions just sounds controlling. I'm
yeah,
gonna love you
point,
if like.
Well, I will say, you know, why I feel like I'm on the fence about this is I think that there is something quite beautiful about getting to exist in a space with somebody where you don't feel like you have to constantly audition. So I think that when you pass that threshold of unconditional love, where you can show me parts of who you are, and that won't mean an immediate refusal to love you anymore or a dismissal of you. And I was talking about this in this video that I made recently, where one thing I value so deeply about Jared and I's relationship is I don't have to constantly audition for him to prove I'm a good person.
Sure.
We're at a place now where I could make a terrible mistake. I could say something crazy. I could do something abhorrent, and he will still look at me like you're a good person.
See, and I feel like that's unconditional love.
Yeah, I mean, mind you, like, I think if there's a pattern of a certain behavior to just disprove, I mean, like, that singular mistake won't cost you everything, which in essence is the whole concept of insurance, right? Like, you make one bad mistake as a driver, you're not going to completely go bankrupt and lose your license. Like, you've got an insurance plan that you invest into that gives you peace of mind, because the world is so unpredictable, unsturdy, and it's chaotic. But in order for us to cope with that constant stress, we need to create these ideals of safety. And that's what helps us to, you know, operate every day and feel like we have one less thing that we have to constantly stress about. So when you offer somebody, I think, unconditional love and support, does it literally mean that? I'm sure we can all come up with conditions, but it's the idea that I don't have to audition for you. And just because I'm not perfect today doesn't mean tomorrow I still can't rely on you to see the best in me.
That's part of the conditions to me. Like the reason why you receive that type of love from me is because I see you striving and changing and evolving every day. There's an effort in your approach where it's not like I'm effortless in this situation and I'm going to continue to show up this way.
I mean, that's fair. And those are your conditions, and I like value and respect and hear those. But I think the hope would be that you get to a place with somebody where I use the analogy all the time of like the fruit versus the fruit tree. So when you get into transactional relationships, it's fruit. We know fruit is a single use. You get a mango, you eat it. When it's done, it's done.
Yeah.
You've got a fruit tree, though, which bears multiple fruits for you. However, there could be a year your tree is diseased and you don't get any fruit from it. But you still have to tend to that tree, knowing that one day it could get better and that it was what it was to you at one point. And when you are in a transactional relationship, it's fruit, right? Like, hey, it's good for now, but when it's done, it's done.
But at what point does it
Which
get
I
to
feel
a
like
point?
that's a great analogy, and I feel like that's very much unconditional love.
Yeah. But at what point does it become now a situation where that tree is not going to get better?
When it feels ultimately unhealthy.
Yeah, when it feels unhealthy.
Or when it ultimately is not being taken care of or not being fed or there's no nutrients.
And I'm not saying unconditional love is like this binding contract and it's like forever, like no matter what, like I'm going to stay in this relationship forever. That's like I'm separating relationship and love. So although I'm saying that I have unconditional love for him, that does not bind me to stay in this relationship unconditionally, no matter what he does.
Yeah.
Just going back to the boundary part, something I was researching, which really resonated with me, and I would love to hear. So it says sometimes we ignore the boundaries in the name of unconditional love. However, in those moments, we're not offering unconditional love. We're offering codependent love. In codependent relationships, we're so set on maintaining the dynamics in the relationship that we excuse or enable unacceptable behavior. Again, this leads us to a place of unbalanced power and control rather than in a place of truly connected love in which we offer each person an opportunity to be responsible for their behavior with us. What does that mean to you?
I think that
is tree responsible for taking care of themselves?
I think that's where it comes down to whether somebody has really done work within themselves to develop the true self-worth and value of themselves that they offer and bring to a relationship, and having the healthy boundaries where it allows them to know when it's being crossed and when it's not. Because I think when you start to be so forgiving and not stand your ground for what your boundaries are, it's almost like a codependent love, and which is unhealthy.
Yeah.
And again, that love without boundaries is extremely unhealthy. I think, again, I just go back to, like, because I think, Jay, you were going with, let's say you said Shan was talking about the insurance part. If you didn't see Shan working on herself and vice versa, that would be a condition for you, correct?
Yeah.
Towards the love. So then, honey, the
and that doesn't mean show up perfect.
No. But it means
I mean, we're human. We're going to make mistakes. I don't want to ever feel that like a mistake that I made, it can you would just stop loving me because I'm bound to make mistakes.
Right. But if you kept making mistakes without any type of effort or want to repair, to me, that's conditional, and that will start to change how I feel about you, or start to change at least how I see us moving forward. So that's a condition for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we talked about this in a video once where Jared and I had mentioned that we don't turn each other down for sex. That if one person is horny, the other person will oblige even if they aren't initially interested. And people took offense to that, I guess. Not offense is the wrong word, but felt that was maybe a possible recipe for unhealthy exchanges. But the truth is we only make that rule based on knowing who each other are as individuals. So that to be said, like, yesterday you tried to come on to me and I was like, hey, I'm on my period. And you were like, oh, and then you just stopped. If I was with a partner who was like, I don't care about your conditions, we're going to continue to move forward, that might be a rule that I would want to not have with somebody. So the idea that if I give you unconditional love, you're going to just take and take and take, and you're going to try to take advantage of me. Well, if you feel like that could possibly happen, don't offer to that person.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. But that's where it comes into having your self-value before you even enter that kind of a relationship.
Yeah. But the difficult thing is I don't think that is really explained to people. I mean, love naturally is addictive, and we're pair bonding mammals who are born to make those connections. And so your brain wants to have unconditional love for 7 years for somebody. It wants you to bond and stick with somebody no matter what they do for that time. And because we're not taught that, we feel like we have this deep connection and duty towards people who really have never earned it. And then we throw around unconditional love because we believe that's what complete love is or whole love is. And really, it's like a special kind of situation that you only enter into with very particular kinds of people. I think your most passionate love may not be the person who's deserving of unconditional love from you.
For sure.
Sure. Which I guess leads to parents and kids. Would you say, okay, so for me, I think I love my daughter unconditionally. I love my mom with conditions. So I love my parents with conditions. My in this case, just a single child, no. Do you guys think it's you have to, or you do love you don't have children, obviously. So in your case, do you love your mom unconditionally? Do you think she loves you unconditionally, et cetera?
Unconditionally. I feel like there's nothing my mom could do that would waver how I feel about her. Whether I continue having a relationship with her because of certain things she does or how she makes me feel, that's different. But I separate relationship from love.
From love.
What do you guys think?
I think I love my daughter unconditionally. And I think that in reverse, though, it's conditional. I think that she loves me very conditionally, even as a baby. It's like if I'm not, playing with her the way that she wants to play, she's out. I'm good. You know what I mean? Or if I'm not like showing up, like let's just say I just disappeared. Pop back up 9 years later.
Right.
She probably wouldn't have the same love for me.
Right.
But she would still have love.
Maybe.
I guess the thing is because love is a term that is so broad in nature, right? Like we can love this blanket and love our partner. And you can always have some capacity for what that is to people. But I think in the intense way where you can rely on me for anything, I think that's what we're talking about.
Because when you think of unconditional love, you don't think of the way you love that blanket. You think of romantic passion.
I think of romantic, and I also think of family.
Yeah,
I would think. I think of dependability. A child.
Like I think of unconditional love. Like you can call me in the mix of things and ask me for something that would be uncomfortable for me to give, and I would give it to you
based on you loving that person unconditionally.
Yes, just based on me wanting your well-being being so important to me that I'm willing to put myself in an uncomfortable position.
Yeah.
Okay. What if you continued to give and give and give to that friend or person, and they weren't giving it to you, or when you would call
I mean, there's like Jared's the only person probably on this planet that I would give unconditional love to and value. Okay. You know what I mean? Like there's just, I mean,
but even honestly, when you love me, there's probably conditions.
But yeah, I mean, we're so far from, I just think going back to my fruit tree analogy, you'd need to not be bearing fruit for like,
7 years.
I don't know how many years I've never been in that position before, but there'd have to be an extended period of time. So I can't imagine what it is based on the time that we spend together and how meaningful it is and what I know who you to be as a person. If you dramatically changed, you've got a long time and a lot of mistakes. You could come to me, you know this. You can come to me and say you've got another woman pregnant. That'd be like, tell me more.
No, you're lying right now. It's
100%.
It's all cap.
100%.
Hold on, so we got to reset. So let's talk about that for a second, because again, back to stepping out, back to cheating. If Jared got a girl pregnant, would that be a condition for you?
No.
You would still unconditionally love him?
Yeah.
If I got a girl pregnant, would you still unconditionally love me?
I would still love you. I just wouldn't be in the relationship anymore. But again, that goes
back.
She does
that. She doesn't separate. She doesn't hold those together.
And relationship.
She still love you.
Like, you know, we were talking about this off camera though, because we were saying, you know, we've all been in love with other people. We can agree on that, right?
Yeah.
Hell no, I'm just kidding.
We've all been in love with other people.
And part of it is because of that reason. I'm very selective of who I give that level of love to.
Yeah, but like those people to this day, you don't love them the same.
No.
Right? So it's like unconditional love is, in that case, it's kind of like it's like a souvenir. It doesn't really do anything, but it just says you were here. But it's not functional, right? Because just because you were in love with someone in the past, if they called you up today, you'd probably be like, no. They'd be like, yeah, but you said you'd love me forever. Yeah, I do. Enough to answer the phone, the end.
Yeah.
So then it doesn't really have any, what's the value in it?
But I just feel like in the present moment, when I offer somebody my time or my love, I'm offering it with no expectation of what he's going to do for me in return. And that's how I define unconditional love.
I got to push on that a little bit. Really?
Yeah.
It just kind of sounds, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but it just kind of sounds like no matter what, you're going to love me. No matter if I show up half-assed, no matter if I show up all the way, no matter if I call you back.
Because, well, I mean, it's not like from day one I got to that point. It's like we've built to this level, right?
And it just, now that it's there, it can't be taken away as long as we're together.
Not that it can't be taken away. It's just like I won't, again, it's like I just separate love and relationship. I'm not saying by loving you unconditionally, I'm going to stay and put up with all the bullshit that you put me through. That has nothing to do with it. Because I love unconditionally with boundaries.
She'll take the relationship before she takes the love.
So it could be 10 years from now, 20 years, 30 years, and you could be married to somebody else with kids by somebody else. JD can call you and be like, hey, I want to try again. You'd be like, no. He'd be like, but don't you still love me? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's like, see, you guys are relating unconditional love to something totally like what my definition is. So
it's
that's
where the
respect
respect and acknowledgement that
where I
shared something special at one time, and that will forever matter to me.
Yes.
How you feel.
Yeah. Exactly how I feel.
Because I don't love any of my exes.
Yeah, neither do I.
I care for their well-being.
If any of them, morbid thought, if any of them died, would you cry? Aside from your daughter's mom.
Right. I'm only on one, and I still don't think I would. I'd be in a mood. I'd be flashing back. I would pray for their family. but I don't know if I would cry.
But I think that's also where you have to question, like, we've all been in past relationships where at that moment we thought we were genuinely loving someone, but we were young, you know, like, did we even know what love was at that time, you know? So I feel like,
yeah, but you still love them unconditionally.
I know what you're saying, but I just feel that sometimes, like, I don't want to say, I'm trying to like say this without saying people's names, but like your last relationship, I feel that there was more to that relationship than like love. I feel like there was a lot of other stuff that you were feeling than actual, like, now that you look back, you're probably like, I don't even know if I really.
Yeah, it was more of an infatuation.
Yeah.
More of a convenience.
So that's probably why she doesn't come to your mind in this question.
I wasn't thinking about her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about one in particular, which was a 5+ year relationship. And I was thinking, if she were to die, would I cry? And I don't think I would. I
wouldn't put myself in an uncomfortable, even going to that. If any of my exes, which some of them I'm still fond of, if any of them called me and asked me for something that would be even a slight, considerable inconvenience to me, the answer would be no. You know what I mean? Like, there's nobody that I am in that invested in their well-being that I would put anything of mine on the line. And that to me says that even though I love them the way that I love Chipotle, I probably don't have unconditional love for those people, because their well-being, it really isn't, it matters to me, and from a standpoint of I wouldn't wish ill on them, but I wouldn't put myself in any kind of compromising position to ensure that the best happened for them.
And this is even without Jared in the picture. If you were single, would you still feel the same way?
I mean, if I was single, I might holler at an ex, so maybe we would have a thing, but that would change it because we now have a bond. But if I'm thinking about the connections that I have right now with exes, which some are peaceful and amicable, some I'm even cool with, I talk to weekly, there's none of them that if they asked me for anything that I felt was like slightly risky for me, that I'd be like, oh man, sorry.
How do you feel about that, Jay?
About my exes?
Yeah. Or again, just to like, if they hit you up needing something, right?
No, I don't have anything for them. Like, I'm cordial.
Sure.
I hope for the best for them.
Even needing emotional support.
No. I don't think I'm there for them for that. I don't think I would even offer it.
And if you were single, would you still feel the same way?
If I was single, I'd probably entertain it.
Okay.
Yeah. If I was single, I'd probably entertain it. But at the same time, I don't know. I just, even, it's hard for me to go into what ifs of how I would feel. I can tell you how I feel now. And how I feel now is just kind of like, I hope for the best for you. I want to see you continue to succeed. Yeah. And if I can help you, I would. But as far as like emotional support, or if they were to die, I don't know if I have any space for that. Yeah.
Which definitely you don't have unconditional love.
Oh, no. Right. I mean, I was on the side of like, I'm not into the unconditional love. Because for me.
So if you and Shan were to break up for whatever reason, divorce, not break up, your love would just stop.
I mean, it's not as black and white as that, but it would probably not be the same.
Would it deteriorate?
Yeah,
There's no parts of me that would expect that Jared would still be in love with me 2 years after we broke up.
But in love is different from unconditional love for me.
There's no parts of me that feels like Jared would be like, I mean, to that, I mean, the difference between a souvenir and something functional. I just want to put it down to that. A souvenir love where he's like, that's the mother of my child. I still love her.
And I want the best for her.
If I called him and I'm like, oh my God, this job, I just lost it. I'm so distraught. Like, I just need a friend right now. Like, hey, can you just like come over and just watch movies with me and hang out? And just, he'd probably be like, ah, man, I made some plans with my friends.
And then to even go deeper than that, like with you being, the mother of our child, it's like, anything that I would do that would look like emotional support or any type of like, more than just like, I hope for the best of you, would actually be out for our daughter.
It wouldn't be for me.
It wouldn't be straight for you, because if she wasn't in the picture, I probably wouldn't be offering those things. So it's a hard thing. It's definitely conditional, and the conditions is if we're together and we're in this, then like it's here and it's alive.
But that is, like you said, it's conditional, because if based on the condition that you two are co-parents, you're going to always have a love and et cetera. You're always going to be there for her. But if you didn't have a kid together,
it probably wouldn't be there.
Exactly.
Yeah. And we shared a lot, we shared a lot together.
Yeah.
And so I can see the benefits from hearing Shay talk, you know, But I think at the end of the day, we're just using different words, you know? Hers is boundaries, mine is conditions.
And that's mine too.
And it's essentially the same thing, you know? Yeah. If you and JD got a divorce, you would have love for him, but the relationship is now gone.
Correct.
Same here. Like if our relationship is gone, I wouldn't call the love that I have for her as unconditional, because I wouldn't be showing up the same for her. Because I go back to that, like, for me, the love is in action. The love is continuous. And so we had it.
Right.
It's not there anymore.
Right.
It's not continuing anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're kind of all saying the same thing, just different ways of saying it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think
we're better. I think we love more, because at least I'm saying I'll be there for you. And Jared's like, nope.
I would be there for
JD's
you.
like, nope.
Minus Ryu.
I would.
Minus Ryu.
Yeah, but
2 years down the
even
road.
then, like, I would be there for you, but I'm not in love with you.
But in love and unconditional love for me is not the same thing. So I was never saying I'm always going to be in love with him. I never said that. I just said I've opened up a space of my heart and myself to him
that will always be there.
It's always going to be there.
I guess this is the thing. Is this in the human language, we use exaggerated terms, even insurance, right?
Yeah.
Insurance is an exaggerated term that if I get into a car accident, I'll be cool. We know there's conditions though.
Yeah.
There's going to be some circumstances where Geico's going to be like, good luck.
Yeah.
But I've been paying. Nope.
No, it's totaled. It's ours now.
Yeah.
It's totaled.
Right.
That's the conditions.
Let's
Once you total it, we're not paying. It's gone.
Yeah. Well, it's cause and effect.
That's what I mean. Like, we use these big terms like always, forever, like unconditional. We are saying that, but we're talking about 98%. That there is a window of things that is like unforeseeable conditions that could happen, which this gets taken away. But that doesn't mean that we focus on the 2%. I don't go out every day focused on, if I get into an accident, there's a chance it might not happen. I go out every day with the assurance that, hey, I'm covered. And that allows me to move in the world in a different way. So when I operate with Jared, I'm not constantly thinking about, oh, if I do this is going to mean less love for me. I have this overall assurance I'm covered with him. And I feel that with you. Like, you're talking all this, unconditional mess. And Jared and I have never broken up. I have never felt for a day. I've never felt for a day less love from him. I've never felt it's been threatened. I've never felt like I had to audition for him. Like, so for me, that's the insurance that I don't stress about what we'll share in the future, because it's been solid and you've shown me that you'll be there for me.
You show up.
Right, but I'm not focused every day on that. I'm more so focused, that's what I mean. The unconditional part allows me to relax into you without the fear that you're going to change your mind tomorrow.
Which I feel like that's my definition of unconditional love, that free love where you don't have to, there's no expectation from somebody. You don't have to walk on eggshells around them.
But your insurance can kick you off. If you act crazy and you get in a few accidents and a couple tickets, your ass is out. So
or you have to pay a crazy amount.
I got insured love for you.
You do, but I think for me, it's like I've loved unconditionally before, and I let a lot of things slide. I was distraught. It was the only relationship when it ended. I was depressed for so long, and then I've seen you.
It's a teenage love.
But do you think you were depressed because you didn't have boundaries for yourself?
Teenage love in your last relationship where you loved unconditionally, and you have videos online talking about it. So like, I just don't think that if I showed up like your ex every day, you wouldn't allow that. You would not allow yourself to go through that again.
No.
If I showed up how I show up, of course it's easy to say unconditional. It's easy to say that, right? Like it's easy for me to be like, my love for you is unconditional because you show up every day.
But I guess what I mean, we're not going to have a productive conversation if we're focused on the always factor. Like the word always doesn't exist. The sky isn't always going to be blue.
Yeah.
So if
always and never, learning from therapy.
Absolutes.
Always and never absolutes, and that's not.
Yeah.
So if we can remove that element of like, there's nothing, but like 95%, you're good.
Okay.
There's a 5%, issue of circumstances and incidences. And I think when we say unconditional, we're not saying hit your mom in the face with a crowbar and we're still good. Although if you did that for my mom, I'd be like, was she a zombie? I feel like I would ask you a question first before I was like, that's it, the love's done.
Yeah.
Yes. Well,
unconditional love with boundaries for me.
For me,
which I guess is for you, conditional love.
Yes, where this is
for me,
so annoying.
Yes, at this point.
Because I'm saying the same thing. Like we're saying the same thing.
We're just calling it conditions
like
and boundaries.
You don't like the word conditional love.
Me?
Yeah.
I don't dislike it. I just feel like it's not a productive argument to argue on the always and nevers, because you're going to be right and everyone else is going to be wrong. So if we take out that element of like nothing and more like, hey, the thing is, what we have in this relationship is freedom to more than likely most things that you do are going to be fine. And even if you do mess up or you do go through a down period, you're going to be good for a long period of time. Yeah, yeah. Is there an end to that grace? Yes. Yeah. But we don't lead with the fear of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's all, again, I'm believing the conditional love. And in romantic setting, again, the only thing unconditionally that I have known myself to give is to my daughter and to our dog. That's like unconditional love to, you never heard me say that, Shan?
But you won't give it to your wife?
It's the same thing.
I'll answer for you because I'm sure that half the audience is thinking that too. It's not that I won't give it to her. I will. Sometimes I'm fearful of how it's received, how it's perceived, is it going to be judged? Is it going to be, maybe she just got off the phone with a work call and it was a terrible call and I came in, vulnerable and loving and she shut me down. I'm like, oh God, maybe I'll think twice next time, right? My dog is never that way. He unconditionally loves me no matter if I have a bad day, he has a bad day, etc. My daughter, even there's levels to it, but she's my daughter. So I think there's always this I hate, for lack of a better word, excuse that she can do no wrong essentially. And it's like the whole comment, like if my son commits murder, my daughter commits murder, I'll still love them. That's how I feel too. But those two.
But if we take away love, and again, more so put it to, no matter what, if you need me, I will show up for you.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna have to agree, Jitty. We're just gonna have to agree.
Don't you also feel that
we also need another take?
Don't you also feel when you walk into something like protecting yourself in such a way that you're not able to live up to what the things that you really want to do? Like how you said, if you walk in, you kind of have the urge to like hug me or whatever, but you're like, well, what if she's not do you think that's healthy?
I don't know, because I don't know if it's unhealthy, because I would think I think unhealthy is loving without boundaries, right? And I kind of have abandonment issues, neglect issues, trauma issues. So I have certain boundaries that I am working on.
But you're also moving through. You're leading with your triggers and not who you naturally want to be.
No, I'm leading with love. I'm just in the back of my mind, I'm like, what if? You're saying you lead with love, and there is no what if. You're just like, I love him.
Wouldn't you want to just be free and not have to
I would love to.
Go through this filter process in your head of
100%, but I can't right now, right? I would love to win the lottery, but I'm buying a ticket. I'm going to therapy to work through this, but I don't have it. But it's also based on reference point. Jared and I were talking offline about how, for me, I've given unconditional love and have been shut down or rejected in some way, shape, or form. I've received unconditional love and then it was taken away. So I have a different relationship with unconditional love, which is why I'm conditioned for it. And I have conditional love. So, and that's obviously where you and I, but I also believe in what is a weakness of mine is a strength for you. So great, I'm going to lean on you for that, because I will need you to almost physically hold my hand and walk me with you down this unconditional path, because I'm like, you don't know where I'm coming from. You don't know how it's been for me. And that's where I come from. Your mom, love her to death. She gave you unconditional love and you never, ever, ever questioned it. I questioned it more than I didn't question it with my mom. Yeah. So
but I think you questioned it because you had expectations.
Is it wrong for me to have expectations from my mom?
Like from my mom, I never had certain expectations. I think
everyone has expectations.
I received what I got.
You had expectations for your mom throughout your life, for sure. If your mom didn't come to our wedding.
Oh, I mean,
okay.
Here we are with the extremes.
But that's one simple example.
But the expectations, I think, were planted. You only got expectations from a reference point. Like I know with my dad, when I was younger, it was super unconditional. It was fun, Dad. Every time I got to see him and visit, it was like go crazy. And then when I moved in, it switched, and so it messed up my view on my way that I feel like it was conditional at that point. If I wasn't doing X, Y, and Z, he didn't love me.
Exactly.
So,
but did he really not love you, or is that just like how you were receiving his love?
I mean, how I was receiving it. I'm sure he loved me. I'm sure he loved me. But but
you felt it was conditional
for 1000%, all the way down to God. Like the way he taught, like how to love God was conditional. I remember being on a team, and I was like first string, and then I got beat out, and I went to second string, and he said, "Well, what did you do? Are you sinning?" And so those are the ways that I viewed that was the condition. And then going down to my first experience with love, it was like I gave this unconditional love, I allowed so much go through that I didn't perceive as red flags or whatever, and I ended up getting really hurt in that relationship. And so I just like, I don't think that it's bad to have conditions. I don't think that it's bad to advocate for your needs. I don't think that it's wrong. But
what you're talking about is like a patriarchal form of love, where in that if you do good, I give you
now
good
we
love.
automatically lost. She's the patriarchal.
We lost. It's over. We're doomed.
Well, it's the father-like love, where the more that you're like me, the more that I like you, the more that you do good, the more that you're in favor with me. Whereas a matriarchal love is like a nurturing love that no matter what, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
So I don't actually agree that you subscribe to a patriarchal style of love.
Why'd you say it then?
Well, because I think you're saying it like that, but I think that you do. I think you do love more matriarchal.
Okay. Well, then I'll receive it.
Yeah,
I'll receive it.
And I also think too, like back to the expectations thing. I think maybe, I guess for me, it's because of certain expectations, I then have my conditions. Right. Again, it's back to my mom. Like I expected her based on what she gave me throughout our time together to be that way.
I guess, can we define the downfalls for conditions?
Yeah.
Like what are the negatives of that?
I was going to say there has to be like, there's unrealistic expectations that people can have. And then there's healthy boundaries.
And there's also healthy expectations.
But that's where, because I think we're all getting in our differences, right?
Yeah.
Like, when we say we have conditions, there is a reaction to the conditions.
Yeah, there's
like
a rebuttal.
It's bad.
There's a rebuttal. Well, so honey,
but I want to know why that is wrong.
So Shay and I were talking yesterday, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you think that conditions comes across as controlling.
Yeah, I said that earlier.
Okay, maybe I was in my notes.
Do you think that?
But
I think when I hear you explain it, I feel like you're explaining boundaries to me. But I think when I just hear, I'm gonna love you. If you do this A, B, and C.
But it could also be, if you don't do this A, B, and C.
I'm going to stop loving you.
Well, not stop loving, but things will be different and maybe end. So it's not just so much like, hi, I'm JD. If you don't do this, we can't be together. It's not so much just that. It's also like, these are my boundaries, my morals, my values.
Yeah, which I agree.
And what are yours?
That's why I say, like, so, I have unconditional love with boundaries.
But again, just to go back to Jared's question, is like, why would conditions be
can
bad?
You answer that?
Conditions are not bad. I think I gave you guys the perfect analogy with insurance, not to toot my own horn here, right? But an insurance company has a fraud department. Like a friend of mine worked for an insurance company. Her job was to investigate people who made claims that were false. So conditions are negative and you need them, because there are people who are going to take advantage.
Sure.
There are people who are going to see the system and try to reap the benefits off of that, because there is something altruistic about saying that, hey, if you do something bad, you're okay. If you fuck up, if something happens to you, we got you.
Yeah.
And there are a sect of people who hear that and think manipulation, take advantage of, they think criminal. Yeah. So I think that it's bad, right? If you're with somebody who doesn't need that, and then you give them that, you lead with it, right? Because there are a lot of people who wouldn't do that. We were talking about how beautiful it is that when you run up a credit card, or when someone steals your credit card, you can tell the insurance or tell your company that I didn't make this charge, and it comes right off. Yeah. And then we had a friend who was in the space with us who said, oh, my friends do that. Like they just make charges, and then they call and say, I didn't make those charges, and get the money back. Yeah. Wow. Like that's what those conditions are made for, those people.
They're necessary.
Right. And nobody wants to be viewed like that person.
Yeah, but it's necessary to keep people in line.
Yes.
And to stand on as a credit card company, we don't accept this. And to stand on as a partner, I won't accept this. That's why I think it's necessary, but it's very healthy.
But that's why I feel like I'm separating my love from the boundaries I have. Like, do you ever feel that?
Let's just say conditions and boundaries are the same thing.
Same thing. Conditions and boundaries are the same thing. But do you ever feel, although
you good with that, Jay?
I'm good. I'm trying to find out the negative of the conditions.
Yeah. Well, so far we don't have any.
Yeah. Although I have boundaries that you know that I have set for myself throughout our relationship. Have you ever felt that I've like love you differently or don't love you unconditionally?
Yeah.
You do? You feel that
at times, sure. Yeah.
Conditions are bad when you're reminded of them daily, right?
Of course.
If it's waved in your face,
Yeah.
if it's utilized as a manipulation tactic,
Sure.
if you don't do, like to your point, if you don't do this, then I won't do that. I mean, I think a lot of parent dynamics is very conditional, right? Like if you don't get an A, we're not going to Disneyland. Like,
well, it's like Jared was talking about with football. You know, it was conditional, and that was just one example. But for sure, and I mean, that's why I think it's romantically. Again, I go back to it's conditional. I don't believe in unconditional, and definitely when it comes to a child up to a parent, I think it's conditional. But for me, a parent to a child, I just can't.
You know what though? I don't agree with that because I know somebody who have conditional relationships with their children. I mean, I'm not looking at it. I don't want to have a conversation that we draw straws and say everyone has their own opinion because we could do that with this, right? Yeah. So I think if we continue to say love, 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 sure, we can all define love however we want. And just because I'm saying I love you, but there's nothing that quantifies that, what does that really matter? So of course you're going to love your kid forever. But if I'm defining it in terms of I will put myself in a position that's slightly uncomfortable to help you. Your well-being matters more than my own comfort. So I know people who've gotten to a place with their kid that they have to start saying to them, no. I know somebody who willfully allowed their child to be homeless. And they had all the resources, they had money, but that person just kept making decisions.
Enabling,
And it was like, at this point, I can't answer your calls anymore.
But I see that as love as well. Because you know that in the end, this will be good for them. Yeah. It's hard love, it's tough love, but it's still love. I
mean, it may not be good for them though. It may, in the end, they may be in a position, right? But you do get to a place with somebody where you're like, I can no longer love you as an active thing. Can it be symbolic? Sure, forever. But I think like, there are conditions to how much you're going to allow somebody to make mistakes.
That's interesting. Yeah, because I took a poll on Instagram and as it stands right now, we're still within the 24 hours. It was 68% said yes, they believe in unconditional love, and 32% said no. But I got a lot of DMs saying romantically, yes, conditions. As a parent to my child, no. It's definitely unconditional. But that's actually a really good example. It's like, so then do you just keep enabling your child who doesn't want to get it together, and then it's like the only option is for them to be homeless, hit rock bottom, fall on their ass, and let's hope that they, take that as the hardest lesson learned, and now here we are. I don't know if I could let my daughter be homeless. You know what I'm saying? Like, because of the unconditional love. Like, I don't have an answer, but I'm just thinking out loud, like, man, I don't know if even with that. Like, could you guys let Ryu be homeless?
Because I know the circumstances in which that person had to make that decision, I empathize with them. I don't imagine Ryu entering into those circumstances, but it's probably...
But hypothetically?
She would not.
I don't know. Yeah.
You would not let
I'm a bit of a pushover, though. I do acknowledge that.
Would you, Jared?
No.
Based on?
Unconditional love.
Yeah.
And but that's I would never. But I do believe in unconditional love with the
sure.
kid. Yeah.
Now, again, from a child to a parent, I totally agree with you because I have conditions, and conditional love with my mom and my dad based on what has been. So,
and I want Ryu to have that for us.
Conditional?
I want her to, I grew up actually with my parents being very firm that in regards to our extended family, there was conditions. We were not forced to love. I didn't speak to my grandma for 15 years. And that was understood that like our dynamic, we just didn't have that anymore. And it wasn't, my family constantly cut off other family members if they got to a place where they were now harmful to us. So that was ingrained in me. Some people grow up with like, that's your aunt, go hug her.
Sure.
That's your grandma. You're going to go to her house, even if you hate it.
That's how it was. That's how it was over here.
I grew up like Shan, like your family. I mean, my mom didn't talk to her brother for 7 years.
Yeah.
So talk about conditions. I mean, and that was blood. That was sister or brother. So, yeah, I think that's why the family part and why I wanted to break it down into romantic and kids and then parents, because it's all important. And I know everyone is entitled to their own opinion. I didn't think we'd all agree on the same thing.
It's like this.
Yeah, but like
it's X.
Yeah, because when we talked yesterday,
everybody's wrong.
Well, but no one's wrong though, right? Yeah, no one's wrong at the end of the day. And again, it's all based on a reference point.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to everyone's personal definition of love, unconditional conditions.
That just gets so underneath my skin right now.
Why?
Because I hate everybody can have their own opinion. Ends of conversations.
Why not?
What would you like it to be?
With someone right and wrong?
No one's right and wrong. But we can redefine this and say there's no such thing as always and never. So that we get that out of the way.
For sure.
But we can say you can aim to be in a connection with someone where the conditions are so limited and unlikely that more than likely you and that person have reached a level where this is for the long term.
Yeah.
Which is what marriage is supposed to be. We've gotten to a place of getting to know each other where we can say there are so few conditions that we can actually identify that are going to break us up that we're confident in saying this is forever.
That's so beautiful.
And that's how I feel, though.
You're trying to shut me
I know.
up.
Are you being serious? 'Cause that was
Really
But
beautiful.
that's exactly how I feel.
I think it's beautiful, and I just don't know how realistic that it can be.
Based on expectations or based on
No, just like I think it's if you can get to that space like where Shan and I have gotten to, I just think it's unfair.
I mean, are we there? You said it like that sounds
if
nice.
we can get there.
Yeah, you said it about me. Like if I could do whatever, I can get another girl pregnant, I could do all this thing, but I think another person walking through life.
Could another man get me pregnant?
No, that is a condition. Like if you got pregnant with another person's child, like that's a condition. That's a condition.
But the
for me.
relationship would end.
The relationship would
The
end.
relationship would end?
If you got pregnant by somebody else, do you know how much more things that I would have to like how much more stress that adds onto a relationship? Our relationship wouldn't be the same. It would be another stress. It's a whole, you're bringing in a whole different family into the mix.
Yeah.
You would expect me to have to stay through that?
I don't expect, but I mean, I feel like I would try before I said, that's it, it's defeated. I would try.
But based on your boundaries,
maybe I would try. Maybe I would try, but
okay.
I don't know. I'm telling you what I feel right now. Like I've witnessed this happen where the girl was pregnant. I've seen it growing up. The marriages deteriorate. They fail. There's so many bunch of emotions.
I actually have a family member who's that happened to.
Reference
and they're
point.
Still together.
Reference point. You've seen it work. I have not. And so for me, I know my personality and I know what it takes to love that child. I know I've seen of somebody go through mass depression, and I don't think that is healthy for me. I don't think that would be healthy for me to put myself through.
Yeah.
And so for me personally, like, and I think about someone else walking through life, right? I can't imagine in regular life, the average person being okay and having unconditional love for their husband or wife getting pregnant or getting someone else pregnant and being like, but it's unconditional. You have to stay through this.
But that's an individual boundary that you have that has nothing to do that has nothing to do with whether a love can be.
Good to know. Because I've been just curious
doing that.
Got it.
Yeah, I hope you don't plan on doing that.
No, but I think that is a part of the dialogue that you have around long-term love.
Yeah.
I'd say that the goal of long-term love is what are the things that I could do that could jeopardize this intent that we've set?
What are the conditions?
What are the conditions? And I didn't know that, so I'm happy we had this dialogue. It's very useful.
Wait, was it expected? Was it like, oh, he would rock with me?
I genuinely, really for sure, if you got another girl pregnant and you came to me, and I mean, obviously too, because our relationship has the caveat of being open. Right. So I wouldn't accept an open relationship unless I was willing to accept the possible consequences that could come with that. So when I said open relationship, I already weighed that in my mind and said I'd be okay with that.
You can be okay with the consequences, but it shouldn't be like, well, I agreed to the open relationship, so I have to just stay in it.
No, of course you don't. You don't. That's why
you
we
can
have to have the dialogue. So
you can accept the consequence. Like if I agree to an open relationship, that doesn't mean I have to
not have boundaries.
That doesn't mean I have to be like, well, you got pregnant by someone else and we're in an open relationship. It's not your fault. So we have to know the consequences of an open relationship, that it may end.
Yes.
And that's okay. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's okay.
And see, that's also, it's a good point with the consequences, because that's something that I struggle with. Like I also would relate unconditional love to love without consequences.
Yeah.
And I don't understand. Oh, Okay, good.
I don't.
Because I was like, otherwise, I don't know what to tell you.
I don't relate that. That's why I said I separate it. Like I'm not saying just because I'm loving you unconditionally and I'm choosing to love you unconditionally and so freely in this moment, that is not binding me to you.
Correct.
I am not going to be stuck with you forever.
Right, right. Okay. Okay.
You're stuck with me forever.
Shan.
No. No. If you go get pregnant, it's over.
I know you're so mad because it's so hot too.
It's so hot.
It is hot.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'll just add to, because as much as like the conditions and the boundaries are just tough to correlate, I looked up something which is called wholehearted love. And that's kind of how I feel I'm working on, honey. So wholehearted love,
I'll take it,
means leaning into the vulnerability. Of course, I took this of offering our love because we want to offer it.
Yes, not because there's an expectation.
Offering our love in this way means that we give it because it feels good to give and not because we expect a particular outcome.
That's what I've been
Wholehearted
saying.
love also acknowledges and prioritizes the wholeness of both people, which obviously I do. To give wholehearted love, you must love your partner and yourself wholly. And that's, I think, a big piece that like everyone else needs to pay attention to. Like we all love ourselves individually to the max, which is why we're able to be in these relationships and we're able to have these type of dialogues without getting defensive or sensitive or hot or whatever. So right at the end of the day, it's like that's such a key, piece to it. So I just wanted to bring that up. If everyone's just like, well, JD doesn't believe in Shay does, like what's going to happen? It's like, no, like we got it. We're working on it.
I honestly think we're kind of all saying the same thing, just have different
different conditions.
I mean, you should.
Yeah.
I mean, boundaries and conditions are not something that's universal,
Yeah.
as you can see with you guys.
Right.
Your boundaries are not as
As rigid.
as your boundaries, and that's okay.
Which is another important takeaway. To each their own. I know you don't want.
I learned something.
Oh, okay.
I did. I learned.
I know you hate the kumbaya moment. That's what I'm kind of getting right now. But
Well, not that I hate the kumbaya moment. I feel like in order for this to be productive for somebody watching it, there has to be something to like
take away.
swing on. And I think
Yeah.
wholehearted love is a great example.
Yeah.
Maybe we're using language that doesn't necessarily serve the purpose. Like unconditional actually isn't unconditional. And we all can acknowledge that. We're using that word because there's no better word, but maybe there is a better term.
Wholehearted
love.
Yeah.
I
wholeheartedly love you.
I wholeheartedly love you, honey. Okay.
Kiss.
Oh.
Kiss.
Have we never kissed?
Are we really kissing?
Kiss, babe.
This is so weird.
It's the season finale.
Hey.
Well,
with tongue.
It's just gonna keep going up.
Have sex.
Yeah,
Have sex.
Should just stop
Get naked. Get naked.
well, I appreciate everyone coming on. Thank you. This is a great way to end season 1.
Hey.
First time having more than 2 people on and 3 people on, which is great. First couples edition, more to come in season 2. So thank you to the Bradys. Oh, this is kumbaya.
Yeah.
The cameras can't even see it.
No.
1, 2, 3. Wholehearted love. Also, too, before we end, Shan, for the record, can you let everybody know that your wig, you were trying to take it off? People are still in the comments like, I don't believe the wig wasn't coming off. I'm like, it was coming off. We lost the camera. Shan was doing a whole moment.
They thought that we just faked it?
They thought we were faking it.
I thought you were talking right now. I was like, wait, you have it?
Oh, no.
Look.
Oh, I mean,
I don't have.
Oh, okay.
I don't have a wig on today, but.
Okay.
Wrap this bad boy up.
That'll do.
My turn. Just kidding.
On that note, thank you to everyone for watching. I'd love to hear in the comments what you think about unconditional love. It's condition, boundaries, wholehearted, all the above. Until next time, we're hot as hell.
Yes, we are.